Okay, let's get started with round one of this cube draft. We've got blue-white tempo going. I really like the deck. Yeah, I think this could easily 3-0. Although, of course, in cube, it's never guaranteed. You can face really, really good decks, regardless of how good your deck is. And there are just, more stuff like legitimately bad matchups, I think, in cube. Because the decks are more linear and focused. Or at least the good ones are. Alright, let's go. Yep, we're on the play. Sounds good. Yeah, this seems like a keep. Decent mana. I like that we have a 1-drop. We'll X out of graveyards for now. Alright, green deck we're facing. Based on the draft, I think this is probably more of a ramp deck, although green seem to have a little bit of like an aggressive deck or like a creature-based deck. I mean, like cheaper creature-based deck. But yeah, this looks like a ramp deck. Next turn, we're just going to click, probably on draw step for our opponent. Yeah, that seems like the best play. So, put a stop on draw. Get in for another 2. And click you. I'm just going to take a second to write down the cards in my opponent's hand. Alright, we have Terastodon, Ugin, and Elemental, and a Forest. Okay, this is a pretty good mix of ramp and threats, but I think the best play here is just to take the Hedron Archive, because it's basically a ramp for 2. The opponent can play either Master of the Wild Hunt or Bloom Tender this turn, but we can bounce the Master, or we can, I guess we could just bounce the Bloom Tender too. But yeah, I think the Hedron Archive is the play that would give our opponent the most advantage here. Basically, we want our opponent to never hit Ugin this game. That's the goal. And just keep attacking and tempoing out. So I will cross out Archive here. Okay, opponent played Master of the Wild Hunt. We're just going to bounce that during our main phase so that it can't make a wolf and attack in. Moloku gives us a bunch of flyers that we can hopefully swing for lethal with. Opponent is probably going to play Whisperwood, although they would need to have hit a forest, or a land, rather. But it seems likely that they have. Slightly better than the Master. It's a 4-4, and it makes a 2-2 right away. So yeah, looks like we're now limited to attacking with flyers, but the opponent is on pretty low life, so I'm confident in our ability to win this game. Alright, well that is a Sower of Temptation, so that's going to do a lot of good work for us. We can take the Whisperwood and sack it, although I guess our opponent obviously just sacks it right away, assuming they are not F6'd. So we should probably try to click through this quickly in case our opponent is F6'd and we want to F3. And they want to F3, rather. Yeah, I'm assuming they are going to sacrifice it, or just concede, I guess. Alright, so that was a forest, nothing to know about there. In terms of boarding, Negate's not going to be very good. Misthaven might be pretty good, but I don't really think we have another card that's like worse here. Potentially Mana Tithe, but it's good at countering ramp spells, so I think we'll just go ahead with this. Opponent's on the play this time. This looks like a decent hand. We'll keep it. Turn 1 Prairie Stream means we can't Mana Tithe right away, and our opponent's going to be playing a 2-drop most likely on turn 2, so that's a little bit unfortunate, but nothing we can do about that. I think this is a keep. Alright, opponent is mulliganing to 5. Looks like this might be a quick round, although in cube, you know, it's pretty easy to lose even when your opponent has mulliganed to 5. I always find a way to lose. Don't you worry, guys. Alright, play this Prairie Stream and pass the turn. Potentially we might leave up Mana Tithe, considering that our opponent, instead of playing Imposing Sovereign, considering that our opponent is low on cards, and likely the way that they win this game is to just stick a threat. So yeah, I think this is what we're going to do. We're going to leave up Mana Tithe. Although, I could definitely see the case for Imposing Sovereign. Our opponent plays a creature, then we Aether Adept it. But, okay, we can't counter that, so we'll just Aether Adept it probably. Although if we draw another white, we might want to Sovereign plus Tithe. Alright, so this is an interesting decision here. This makes our play last turn seem pretty bad. This Hornet Nest is not an immediate problem, not by any means. Although our opponent could have some spells that damage it, but I don't think they would if they're just in green. Green-red usually does that. I think we're just going to make the safe play, or not the safe play, but rather the traditionally best play and just bounce this right now. Somewhat likely that the opponent would just play it again. Somewhat likely that they might play like a big 5-drop, but hopefully we can resto bounce that. Yeah, so they're just going to play this again, so we're in a pretty good position here. I don't think we want to attack in with our Aether Adept, although I could definitely see that being fine. Yeah, I guess I'm okay with having 2 Death Touchers created. Crystal Shard can bounce them, or the Rogue can trade for them, Maloku can trade for them, stuff like that. So those are going to be annoying, but I think we have to kind of take the L here and let our opponent get these 2 Death Touchers. Plus Aether Adept can trade with one of them. So, and then I think we're just going to leave up Mana Tithe here. We really want to draw lands, but unfortunately we are not. And I don't think developing our board is really going to be of much use. I think we would rather try to counter whatever big spell our opponent has. Yeah, which is not working out great so far, but rather than try to develop our board and then just like lose to a 6-drop, because we don't really have any way to answer something like that in hand. That Nissa is going to be very annoying, especially when it, you know, it seems like it's going to come Planeswalker pretty soon. 7 lands, opponent has 5, so 2 turns. Just drawing an untapped land here would be very good because we could leave a Restoration Angel. Alright, Dissolve is not the worst. It's not a land, but it's not horrible. I think we will just leave back Aether Adept, and we'll discard something like Thalia. Alright, so we're not dead to any big spells. It is going to be very annoying if our opponent just has enough lands to flip Nissa pretty quickly. We're going to take another 2. The opponent probably realizes that we have counterspells by now. Although being mana screwed does tend to make people more aggressive and want to cast their spells. I think what happened this game was basically that our opponent didn't really have any expensive spells in hand, and so wasn't able to cast anything, and kind of just happened to play around our hand very well. Alright, that's good. Unfortunately, well, I guess we could blink in response to this trigger, which I think is pretty good. So yeah, I think we'll do that. If the opponent plays a land, we'll just have to Restoration Angel and bounce the Nissa. I may have wanted to attack there because of that, but yeah. This does leave us open to Ugin, which is a pretty reasonable, expensive card to have for our opponent to have not been able to cast earlier. But I don't know if I want to let this Nissa flip, that's the thing. Our opponent likely would not cast Ugin, which is the problem. and then we would just be left with trying to deal with this Nissa without having developed our board. So I think I have to take the risk here and play the Restoration Angel to try to bounce Nissa, and hopefully our opponent does not have Ugin. If they do, we're definitely in trouble. I wouldn't call it an automatic loss, but it does not look good for us. These Death Touchers are also going to be very annoying if we have to be attacking a Planeswalker at some point. Yeah, this looks like Ugin. Okay, Crater Hoof. That doesn't look like it's lethal right now, which is a good sign. This is going to be 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, so we do have to block with something. I think pretty safe just to block with the Aether Adept and go to 2. We can then play Whirler Rogue, which will give us blockers for the Flyers. Unfortunately, this Hoof is going to be annoying to deal with. Theoretically, it does give us enough blockers on the ground, but our opponent's getting a Nissa next turn unless we didn't draw anything to deal with that. So we are pretty far on the back foot here, but we're just going to try to make the most board impacting plays we can every turn and hope that gets us there. Yeah, leaving up all these counter spells was really damaging to us in the early game, although I believe I was still making the correct plays. It's tough to say, but I'm not necessarily going to conclude that I was making mistakes when this is how things turned out. I think, based on the information I had at the time, it might have been correct. Trying not to use that as the crutch, though, obviously. Ugin here kills us pretty easily. Nissa presents a very difficult problem. That being said, our opponent doesn't necessarily have good attacks if nothing is going perfect, or if nothing is happening for them. But it looks like things are, so we will make the best blocks we can and see what our opponent has here. Ideally, we just end up with a Whirler Rogue, and then opponent maybe plays Nissa, makes a 4/4. We can do something like Crystal Shard to bounce it. I mean, I'm being optimistic here. When you're losing, you want to try to think of optimistic scenarios so that you're prepared to take advantage of opportunities when they present themselves. So that's what I'm doing. But yeah, realistically, things are looking dismal. This does not look like a Nissa. It looks like a Whisperwood Elemental. Alright. This Nissa is going to find a land and flip itself. I don't see how we win this game. So yeah, like I said, very easy to lose even if your opponent is on a mulligan to 5. In cube. Yeah, I think we are pretty much dead next turn, so I'm going to concede. Just for time purposes. Don't want to make you guys watch an extra minute of me taking lethal damage. Alright, I don't think there's anything we want to bring in here. I think we're pretty well set up against this deck. We just need to draw better and always, of course, play better. Alright, we are on the play. This is a keep. Luckily, City of Brass is bailing us out with access to white mana here. I believe I want to start on Thalia, but it's close between Thalia and Imposing Sovereign. Since we're on the play, Thalia turns off something like a Cold Steelheart, which we saw game 1. So I think we're going to go with that. Opponent also has Mindstone, which we saw game 2. So yeah, I'm even more inclined, I think, to go with Thalia. Opponent is thinking a lot about this hand. It's a good sign. Alright, that's 1 mulligan. 2. Okay, so looks like we're in a good position again, but as we saw last game, that is no guarantee of victory. 4 cards, wow. Our opponent is getting very unlucky this game. Hopefully we can capitalize. Start off with an island, pass the turn. has one land. That's a start for them. Alright, Aether Adept is a good draw. That makes me a lot more sure about casting Thalia. Because if they play a creature, we can just bounce it. That seems pretty obvious. I just felt the need to explain it, I guess. Alright. Pretty likely that our opponent could have a Mana Rock in hand, which would be sweet. Yeah, we're just going to do the same draw step Vendilion Click. Vendilion Click against an opponent on a mulligan seems pretty strong. Takes away whatever key card they were going to use to go for an easy victory. Okay, let's see what we're working with. Cold Steel Heart. Okay, so that Thalia did some good work there. Rampaging Baloth and Whispered Elemental. So let me just write this down. Okay. So you always want to consider the idea that you don't want to select anything with Vendilion Click, and I think this might be one of those cases here. We've got an Imposing Sovereign and an Aether Adept, which are both very good against stuff like Rampaging Baloth and Whispered Elemental. Cold Steel Heart does let our opponent ramp to those, and we can, and the opponent can cast it this turn, so that is a potential take. Opponent could draw something like another Mana Rock or a easier to cast creature. But now that I'm thinking about it, I think actually taking the Cold Steel Heart is probably the play here. That puts our opponent very far off of these two cards unless they draw another ramp spell. So I think I'm going to take this Cold Steel Heart. And the opponent looks to have no plays. Yep. Okay. So here, I think our best play is probably to get another Vendilion Click trigger off our Restoration Angel. So yeah, we're going to do that. Restoration Angeling and Aether Adept seems a little bit better, but since we know our opponent's hand, taking away anything that will let them basically like get stuff out sooner is going to be also important. And casting an Aether Adept when the opponent has no creatures in play is also somewhat of a waste, obviously. Alright, we won the match. Okay, I will be back with round 2.